In today's video, we have 4 stories ranging from tragic to the most outlandish and bizarre. Make sure you stick around for the final story, as it's the most horrifying fate of them all. Welcome to Horrible Fates, where the most unexpected and tragic endings to seemingly ordinary lives are examined. We will take some time to explore the darkness that can lurk just beneath the surface of everyday existence. The first story we cover in today's video is not only a tragic tale, but it has to be hands down one of the most bizarre fates I have ever covered. Peter John Robinson was born in 1973 in New Zealand. Now, there's not a lot of information about him growing up, but all things point to Peter being a very intelligent individual. Following high school, Peter went off to college for 7 years. He earned himself a Bachelor of Arts degree and a Master's degree in Political Science at Canterbury University. Canterbury is New Zealand's second oldest university, having been founded in 1873, and is a public research university with a strong global reputation, particularly for its engineering, science, and Antarctic research programs. Following his studies, Peter had aspirations of becoming a primary school teacher. When Peter returned home to Reefton, he moved back in with his mother, Gil Robinson. For further context, Reefton is a historic and charming town on the west coast of the South Island, New Zealand. On August 4, 1888, Reefton became the first town in the Southern Hemisphere to have a public supply of electricity and electric street lighting, which is where its nickname, the Town of Light, stems from. Reefton is also a great place for exploring the region's wilderness and mining history. Now that Peter was back home, he began coaching swimming lessons as he looked to get in somewhere and teach. At around the same time, Peter was gifted a pet kitten that he named Piper. Sadly for Peter, his dream of teaching would never come to fruition. See, Peter suffered from a rare physical condition. He had been born without an ear, a problem that affected his balance. At age 5, Peter had been fitted with an artificial ear, which helped him throughout his life. But after returning from college, more physical ailments began to affect Peter. He soon found that he was suffering from a curve in his spine. This led to severe back pain, which eventually forced Peter into a bedridden-like state. The pain he continued to suffer from became immense, and this eventually led doctors to giving him pain medication, which only further exacerbated his existing balance issues. On July 5, 2001, Peter painfully got up and out of bed. Even with the pain, Peter still wanted to make himself useful around the house. The one responsibility he was focused on right now was feeding his beloved cat, Piper. Now, Piper was an outdoor-loving cat, so Peter filled her dish up and exited the house. He then proceeded down the back door ramp, calling out Piper's name. At the time, it was cold in New Zealand, and there was approximately 3 centimeters of ice on the ground. Given his bad back and balance issues, it's not a huge surprise when I say Peter slipped on the back ramp and fell hard to the ground. As Peter hit the ground, he suffered a significant head injury, which caused him to lose consciousness. Some time would go by before Peter's mother found him. She called for an ambulance, but by the time they arrived, it was too late. Tragically, Peter had drowned, which may lead you to ask, how could he have? Well, the bizarre thing is that when Peter fell, he not only hit his head, but he landed face down in the cat's outdoor water dish. The bowl itself had around 4 centimeters of water in it, which is more than enough for someone to drown in. To add to the overall tragic nature of this story, at the time of his death, Peter was only 2 weeks away from undergoing a spinal fusion, which doctors hoped would get him back on his feet. Sadly, Peter's life was cut short in one of the most bizarre stories I have ever covered on this channel. In closing, I want to send my deepest condolences to all of Peter's family and friends. For this story, we will embark on a journey back to December 1977 in Copag, a charming bayside hamlet nestled on the south shore of Long Island. Copag, part of the town of Babylon, is situated on the Great South Bay, bordered by Amityville to the west and Lindenhurst to the east. The name Copag is believed to have originated from a Native American term meaning sheltered harbor or sheltered place. For the roughly 18,000 residents in 1977, Copiague is known primarily as a peaceful and residential community, renowned for its numerous houses lined along canals and featuring boat docks, creating a picturesque waterfront ambience. With its approximate 35-mile distance from Manhattan, Copiague offers easy accessibility to the city that never sleeps. It was December 14th, 1977, and 8-year-old Drew Allen Mealing was woken up early by his parents. Drew, like most kids, would have rather gone back to sleep, but he had school this morning and his mom didn't want him to be tardy. Drew begrudgingly cleaned up, got dressed, ate a quick breakfast. He then grabbed his book bag and said goodbye to his parents as he walked out the front door and began his wait for the school bus to arrive. The big yellow transport vehicle soon pulled up, and the bus driver, Rita Francis, opened the door, allowing Drew to hop on board. Drew immediately looked for an empty seat as he wanted to sit and look out the window on his trek to school that morning. The bus continued on, picking up more kids along the way. At around 9 a.m., the bus began moving along Edmonds Place near Arthur Street. As it did, the bus driver, Rita, was startled by a handful of blood-curdling screams coming from the students on the bus. She immediately pulled the bus over, bringing it to a sudden stop. As she got up to investigate, she was met with pure horror. There, in one of the seats, she found the crumpled-up body of Drew Allen Mealing, and his head was all but gone. See, as Rita drove the bus, Drew was looking out the window. Now, it's not clear when or why, but at some point on the trip, Drew had decided to not only open the bus window, but he put his head out the window. As the bus drove along Edmonds Place, it came extremely close to a roadside telephone pole. The pole connected with Drew's head as the bus cruised along at 30 miles per hour. In the blink of an eye, Drew's young life was ended, and a bus full of students were traumatized by an experience no one should ever have to go through. Now, I do want to state real quick, there is not a lot of information on this story. According to newspaper records, Drew's head struck the pole. There is no information as to whether or not his head was taken clean off, but I did do some investigating into this story, and I found some people that went to the same school years after the incident, and according to them, the story is that he did indeed lose his head. Either way, it was an absolutely horrifying and tragic way for such a young soul to lose their life, and I want to end by sending my deepest condolences to all of Drew Mealing's family and friends. Now, this story serves as a very powerful cautionary tale. 31-year-old Jane McDonald was the youngest of her 5 siblings growing up in Armadale, West Lothian. Now, there's not a lot of information around her early life, but at 31, she was described by friends as being a bubbly, vivacious person who loved going out and dancing with her friends. She was also described as a bonny wee lass who always wore designer clothes and makeup and was known for being a no-nonsense person. At 31, Jane was currently living in Airdrie while studying for an HND in legal studies at Motherwell College. For context, Airdrie is a town in North Lanarkshire, Scotland, known for its rich industrial history, unique landmarks, and location in the Central Belt, approximately 12 miles east of Glasgow. It was Tuesday, May 27, 2003, and Jane was tidying up in the kitchen before bed. At the time, she was staying at a manse with a distant relative of hers, Reverend Sharon Colvin. For those that don't know, the term manse is most commonly used in the context of Presbyterian churches, especially the Church of Scotland, and is also used by some Methodist and Baptist traditions. To put it simply, a manse is the official house for the minister and their family. It is similar in function to a parsonage, rectory, or vicarage in other denominations. As Jane continued tidying up in the kitchen, she soon opened up the dishwasher and began loading plates and cutlery. As she did this, tragedy would strike. Jane McDonald would lose her balance and slip on the kitchen floor, causing her to fall into the wide-open dishwasher. Jane let out a scream of pain, which got the attention of the minister, who came running into the kitchen and was shocked by the massive amount of blood on the floor and dishwasher. It was clear right away that Jane wasn't doing well, as paramedics were called to the scene. It was around 10 p.m. when Jane was rushed to the Monklands General Hospital in Airdrie. Doctors would work diligently on Jane, but there's only so much that they could do. She would pass away later that evening while holding her brother Mark's hand. Jane's death was sudden and absolutely tragic, but I feel in telling her story right now, we can prevent the same thing from happening to others. See, when Jane fell into that dishwasher, she landed on a knife that had the blade facing up. It plunged into her, damaging vital parts of her body and causing a large loss of blood. Now, for some, you may say, why would anyone put a blade in upside down? Well, it turns out situations like Jane's happen to be more common than you would expect. In British Columbia in 2001, a man in his mid-50s reportedly tripped over the open dishwasher door at his mother's house and was fatally impaled on multiple knives sticking up from the cutlery tray. And in Kettering, Northamptonshire in 1997, a 12-year-old boy named Mark Rockingham died after falling onto an upright knife in the dishwasher, which severed an artery in his chest. In the end, those are just a few stories involving people getting impaled while falling onto an open dishwasher. So please, let Jane's tragic story be a reminder to first and foremost keep your knives, forks, and other sharp objects face down inside the dishwasher, and on top of that, when you're not actively loading or unloading a dishwasher, leave the door shut. My eldest son actually fell recently when I was loading the dishwasher. Luckily, he fell near the dishwasher and not on it. But when this happened, it actually got me thinking about what ifs, and that's when I went down this rabbit hole of stories like Jane McDonald's. In closing, I want to send my deepest condolences to all of Jane McDonald's family and friends. Every night in factories across America, the food supply chain is scrubbed clean for the next day. It's a job done by thousands of sanitation workers, a job that, when basic safety rules are ignored, can turn deadly. It was July 13th, 2025 at around 9:30 p.m. at Tina's Burrito factory in Vernon, California. Vernon was founded in 1905 as the first exclusively industrial city in the southwestern United States. The city itself is small in area, being roughly 5.2 square miles, and has an extremely low residential population of only 222 total residents. But the city houses over 1,800 businesses that employ approximately 50,000 to 55,000 people daily, making it a vital economic hub for the region. This was Brian Neftali Otaniel Kanu Joj. If I butchered that, I apologize up front. Brian was just 19 years old at the time of his tragic end. 8 months prior, Brian left his small town in Guatemala to pursue a common dream, to work hard and send money home to his mother and fellow siblings. His job was working the night shift, cleaning the massive industrial machinery at Tina's Burrito factory in Vernon, California. On the evening of July 13, 2025, Brian was cleaning a large industrial kettle. Now, news reports first came out stating it was a giant meat grinder, but from my research, that was not the case. It was indeed a large kettle. Now, inherently, this can be a very dangerous task. Safety regulations demand the machine be locked out and completely de-energized before anyone goes near it. This fundamental protocol, known as lockout-tagout, prevents the machine from unexpectedly starting. But on this night, that safety measure appears to have failed. As Brian worked inside the machine, cleaning and sanitizing it for the following day's use, the kettle came to life. In an instant, screams could be heard echoing throughout the factory. Coworkers heard those screams for help and desperately tried to hit the emergency stop button, but it was too late. By the time the paramedics arrived on scene, the young man was already gone. Now, in my research, I tried to find out exactly what this type of machinery does. From what I found, an industrial kettle, particularly in food production like a burrito factory, is a sophisticated, large-capacity piece of equipment used for the precise cooking, heating, and mixing of bulk food products. It is essentially an enormous, highly controlled commercial pot designed for efficiency and consistency. The kettle cooks, simmers, or boils huge batches of liquid or semi-liquid products consistently and rapidly, and in the case of Tina's Burrito factory, there are large internal blades, paddles, or scrapers that constantly rotate. I think, given that description of what the kettle does, you get a full picture of exactly what kind of horrible fate Brian endured in his final moments. The idea that he was just in that machine, quietly working away, doing his job, looking to provide for his family back home, well, it just makes it all the more heartbreaking in the end. Now, as I always like to do, I want to end by sending my deepest condolences to all of Brian's family and friends. Thank you all for watching. This is not an AI channel. I do all the work here myself, and I would love if you subscribe, hit that like button, and left a comment down below. Also, I want to send a huge thank you to all my Cellar Dweller channel members. Your support is immensely appreciated, and with that said, please consider checking out another one of my many videos, and I will see you all next time when we head back into the cellar.